Hello, friends. Welcome to topic 2, our lecture for setting financial goals. This is obviously a critical, usually underestimated step in the whole broad scheme of personal finance. But at the end of the day, the financial goals, it not only gives you a target where you want to end up, but it also becomes the basis for your current financial planning. So it's really important that you have a sense of where you want to be, of what future you want, okay? We'll talk more about goal setting in live lecture, but for today, I just want to give you a brief overview. So let's jump into a quick discussion of setting financial goals. And as is obvious, in this big, long, ongoing, lifelong process of personal financial planning, of trying to live your best possible life, the first task is going to be setting goals. Lots of people, when they think about personal finance, they're thinking about opening up their Robinhood account, or, oh, damn, I should have bought Tesla, that's fine. But ultimately, that's not the first step. The first step is to define what you want to get to. So we need to focus on personal financial goals. In our last lecture, we briefly defined personal financial planning as a process for thinking and acting in order to reach those goals. So what that really comes down to is the idea that your plan, in other words, is not the starting point. The goals have to be the starting point. Your plan, it stems from your goals. You have to have these goals, because otherwise, what are you planning for? You don't map out a route to a location you haven't determined. Okay, so your plan stems from your goals. So some of the key questions that I'm going to push you on over the next couple of weeks is, have you really thought yours out? What do you want to achieve? What financial goals do you want to hit? And are they written? Because until you write them down, you're really not going to be prepared. They're really not goals. Until you write them down and think them out, they're kind of like wishes. And wishes are great for 5-year-olds who want to, ride unicorns that shoot gold dust out of their ass. But wishes are not what adult financial planning is about. What are your goals? Write those goals down. Align those goals with the bigger part. And that's the next thing. Ultimately, your goals should reflect your values. Your broader values are what will be the launch pad for your goals. When we say broader values, what do I mean? Well, we'll talk about this and flesh it out during the live lecture. But, what's important to you at the big level? Is family important to you? How about independence? How about charity? How about living without fear? It doesn't really matter what the values are. You all have these values, so you need to think about those values. And there are some common ones that we'll go through, but those values form kind of like the meta level of your life, and your goals help you to achieve those values. And then your financial plan, in turn, helps you achieve the goals. So if you do it well, you get this beautiful sense of alignment, so that your day-to-day actions on what seem to be trivial events align with long-term plans to really reach your life's vision, to really achieve the values that you set yourself to. And that's a good thing, okay? What are some examples of good, well-crafted financial goals? Well, I will tell you this, they need to be specific. We'll talk about the SMART methodology in the live lecture, but you're familiar with this. Goals, if they're going to be good and well crafted, need to be specific. I want to pay off my credit card debt within 2 years. That's a good goal. I want to get out of debt. Not so much of a good goal. I want to save $15,000 in the next 3 years so I can go to grad school. That's a good goal. I want to be smarter with my money. Not a good goal. So you get the idea. Note that goals have to be specific, and the goals that you craft and that you need to write should also have some sort of a target date. Okay, we typically, in the world of life as well as financial planning, define goals into 3 rough horizons. These are always fluid. Some people use longer or shorter ones. I don't really care about the specifics. I care that you're thinking about immediate, intermediate, and long-term goals. Your short-term goals, typically within about a year. That's a good window. I know that when I was an undergrad, I always made, just because the way that I think, I would make my short term 4 to 5 months, because my mind always thought on a semester basis, right? Now that I'm working and doing different things, my short term goal, typically a year, sometimes 9 months. My intermediate term, that can usually be, let's say, maybe from 1 to 5 years. There are some people that say, oh, it's 6. Some people say it's 8.5, whatever. It's just an intermediate term. And then your long-term goals are typically, I don't know, 5+. I know that some people would say that your intermediates need to actually be like 1 to 7, and that would make your long-term 7+. This is one of those areas, my friends, where you can drive yourselves batty if you get hung up on what are ultimately details. The bigger thing is more important. You draw the value from the bigger thing. Look at your financial goals in a short, intermediate, and long term. You can slightly sort of kind of tweak those around your own circumstances too. Because obviously if you're, for example, a junior, maybe you'll consider your short term a year, but maybe you'll consider it like, 20 or so months until you graduate, something like that. If you're a senior, maybe you'll craft your window at short term while you're still in college, and then medium term, your first couple years of career. Okay. And again, you're going to revisit these goals all the time. So you can also kind of have some flex in your time frames. That's okay. The bigger thing is that you're thinking about distinct time horizons. Okay. Once you understand that, what are some principles of effective goal setting? I find that when I was in undergrad and just out of college, and even early in my career, it was always a source of frustration to me, because people would say, oh, you have to set goals, but there was never a framework or a way to think it through. So I want to offer to you what might be some, very vague and broad guiding principles on effective goal setting. And I think that goal setting needs to start ultimately with knowing yourself, who you are, what you value, what's important to you, your relationships with money, as we discussed last time. You have to know yourself. You have to be honest with who you are, with what you value. From there, you can develop good goals. Remember, if you're not good with this step, then the goals that you set may not really be grounded in something real to you, at which case, again, they're just like wishes, because you never really plan to achieve them because they don't resonate with something deeper. So know yourself. Tied to that, it's probably a good idea every now and then to ask the question, how will you evaluate your life? You have to decide how you will evaluate your life. In other words, and you don't have to be like super statsy about it, but like, have you considered some like metrics or some indicators that your life is being lived in a way that resonates with your value stance, with your faith stance, with this underlying sense of what your mission is? And I know it's weird because you got in this class thinking that you're going to learn about how to get good in the stock market. And I'm talking about, vision and life mission, but I hope you see that they're connected. Okay. So you have to decide how you're going to evaluate your life. Obviously, this will change over time because your ideal now will probably change if you get married and, have a kid or two. All of a sudden the priorities will shift. If the time comes and, we've discussed this, your parents start to get older, the way that you want to be remembered as your sense of being a good son or a good daughter now will probably change a little bit later, when the provider shifts. Right now you tend to kind of, I don't want to say this mean way, but kind of live off your parents, be supported by your parents. For many of you, eventually that's going to kind of shift and you'll be taking care of them. So obviously these evaluations, these metrics will change, but they're important starting points, as is the idea of creating your vision. Again, you have to have a vision of who you want to be, because when it comes to good goal setting, you want to start at the end and then reverse engineer it back. So have that vision. What are the values that you have? When you look at future you, at different horizons in the future, you know, what do you want your future you to be like? What will future you look like? Who will be in your life? What will be the status of your relationships with your parents, with your siblings, with your friends, with your partner if you have one, with your children if you have them? How will you want to be? What is your vision of how the people that are working with you, or if they're your bosses employing you, how will they see you? How do you want to be as a son or a daughter, as a brother or sister, as an uncle or aunt, a godparent? All of these things are going to be future you, and you want to make that real. You know, where's future you going to live? What kind of clothes is he or she going to wear? What's his day like? Make this real, make it textured, because once you can envision that, then you can work backwards and build the goals to get there. So create your vision. And honestly, this sounds kind of silly, you know, it's even so to think about it, but it's an essential step. So if you need to, keep it private. You know, write it down, read it if you want, shred it, but commit to thinking about a vision of future you. And I will also say, if you're going to do this vision mapping, go big. Don't go half-ass. Envision the best possible life for you. Envision a life that you will be proud to have lived, and that will make the people that you love proud. Okay, so create your vision. From there, make your goals SMART. You're familiar with this acronym. You know, the goals, they have to be measurable and actionable, et cetera, et cetera. We'll discuss SMART goals, but it's a good framework. I guess when I say SMART goals, what I'm saying is don't make vague goals, because vague goals aren't goals, they're just wishes. And you want to move into tactical things that you can do. So make your goals SMART. Make some of your goals fun. You know, I really believe that a part of the reason why people sort of disdain budgeting, things like that, is because they think that's all about a punitive thing. Oh, I can't spend because of X, Y, Z. Well, you know, your goals can also be fun. You know, what kinds of things would bring joy to your life? What kinds of things, you know, would make your life pleasant and enjoyable? There's nothing wrong with having fun. You just need to have the appropriate financial resources to get there. So, you know, set some fun goals too. Also, another key principle, you have to review your goals often. You know, I tend to do mine. Actually, I typically look at my short-term goals every semester, but like my longer-term goals, for me, because I've, you know, either been a student or a teacher for most of my life, I've always enjoyed that down period at Christmas, you know, the long Christmas break. So I usually use the holiday season, because to me it's a nice reflective time. You can kind of unwind a little bit, think about the bigger picture. You're with family, you're with friends, you're reflecting. That's just me. I review my goals at that time every year, you know, in mid-December as I get ready for the new year. The reality is, as your life circumstances change, your goals may change. And that's okay. That's okay. It's good to know that, because then you can recraft your financial plans to pursue your new goals. You know, there's nothing wrong with letting go of obsolete goals or goals that no longer work for you. The goals have to suit you. So review them often and change appropriately. And finally, I would encourage you, as a final principle of effective goal setting, that perhaps, I'm not saying this as truth, this is more of a, shall we say, normative statement, but consider that perhaps your success is going to be measured not by achievement, but rather by striving. Don't get me wrong. I want you to achieve great things. I know that you want to achieve great things. I want to achieve great things for myself. But in a messy, chaotic world where there are some factors that are within your control, but many extraneous factors that are not, it may be worth considering that perhaps success at the end of the day will not be measured so much by achievement as by striving. But if you think about it that way, that empowers you to build good habits. And paradoxically, if you focus less on the achievement, more on the habit, less on the, did I get the A in the class, and more on the process, as it were, little metaphor for you, you will actually find that you will achieve more. But this last thing is really important. Just again, consider the fact that your success may be better defined in the long run, less by your achievement and more by your striving. This is also important for me personally, because this goes back to a fundamental precept that I have to remind myself to live by, and that I advise you to live by. And that is, be nice to yourself. You're gonna screw up. Like I said in our opening meeting, I teach this stuff and I still make dumb financial moves, and I'll look at my numbers. I'll be like, dude, what the hell were you thinking? You teach this, and you're better than this. Well, we're all going to make financial errors. We're all going to make life errors. That's part of being human. It's part of being a flawed person. We're all flawed. But if you commit to striving, and if you commit to doing the best you can, and if you commit to being nice to yourself and forgiving yourself when you make a mistake, it allows you to move forward in a more graceful way. So I would offer to you those principles of effective goal setting. And with that said, I put forth to you the following task or the following challenge for you. Sometime soon, I say right now, but sometime real soon, I would like you to block out some time and write down some financial and life goals. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to emerge from your head onto the paper perfectly formed. They can be the first rough draft in an iteration of refinement. But I really want you to block out some time, quiet time, by yourself, with your laptop or a notepad and a pen in front of you, and start thinking and writing out financial and life goals. As you do that, remember to be thinking about short, intermediate, and long term. And what I challenge you to do, and we can discuss it in class if you'd like, or if these are ultimately private, I respect that too, but I would like you to write down and commit to 2 or 3 specific goals that you will strive for this semester. Those might include things as simple as getting rid of a bit of credit card debt, getting a great resume and cover letter ready for your career search, educating yourself on an area where you feel weak, committing to setting aside $100 a month, $200 a month to build up some basic savings. Doesn't matter what it is. Start small. But I want to push you and I want to encourage you to list down, and you don't have to share them with me, they're for you, but to list out somewhere where they're for you 2 to 3 specific goals that you're going to strive for in our next 15 weeks. Okay? If you do that, you will be well on the way to a life of fulfillment and enjoyment. And at the end of the day, we talk about financial planning and stocks and bonds and retirements and 401ks, but those are not the ends. Those are means to an end, and the end is your future. A great life, a rich life, a fulfilled life, where you extract all the joy that you possibly can and make a great impact on those that you love, okay? It starts, though, with the here and now. So it's difficult, it's challenging, it might be a stretch for you, but I really want you to start thinking about, and I want you to come up with 2 to 3 specific goals that you're going to strive for this semester, okay? And when we talk about this in live lecture, I will start first if you want, and I'll share mine with you guys, okay? Anyway, this is topic 2, financial goals. You got to know where you're going if you're going to map the right journey. So start thinking about your goals, dream big, Be great, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.